love the way you could see the heat there in front of him.
Yeah.
From the fire.
From the fire, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even sure we had a real fire at that point.
Yeah.
That's all created.
Created, yeah. The eyeball view, the POI.
Yes. Bryan and I worked a long time on that shot.
And so it's stuff like this. You take the bed out, and what looks like the top of the bed is actually just a little topper, a little skirt or something to appear as if it's a bed.
And if you notice, the eyeball is also turned about 90 degrees so that you can see it in both directions.
Right. This scene was the big shocker for me when I read it. The opening scene of season 3, or the opening episode, and Skylar finds out what I'm doing.
I know, I went, whoa.
Yeah.
Do you want to start?
Anna, you want to talk about this scene? What you were emotionally were you from it?
Well, you know, the first thing I was going to say was this scene, watching you, as I said before, put on the director hat and watch the setups in the monitor and watch your stand-in, and then come back into it and put yourself into the scene, and then we would do it. And I remember after cutting one time, I mean, we were acting, and then you said cut, which made me go, whoa, whoa. and then you looked at me and said, what did you think? I thought, and we sort of talked about it a little bit, because, you know, I was impressed with how you were absolutely present and absolutely immersed in the scene, but you also had to maintain a little bit of objectivity and seeing it from the directorial standpoint. But you relied a lot on Michael for that as well, I think. Yeah.
And guys, I mean, and Skip and everybody really involved, this is something that our show does extremely well, is two people in a very emotional scene sitting at a table, but yet it's extremely interesting, where in his other stories, it may not work as well.
A whole other entire side.
Well, yeah, and Bryan and I, we talked about the scene a lot, and the layers and the levels and where certain things happen, and you know, we explored it, I think, pretty fully, didn't we, Bryan, in conversation? Mm-hmm. But then we allow ourselves to kind of go where we go with it. And
I think this is when you realize that your educated guess of I'm a drug dealer, you can see through me now, and you realize,
how else could you possibly make that kind of money?
Woo!
I love that moment, because I say it. We talked about that a lot. You're a drug dealer, and whether it was how much she really knew that inside,
right,
and how much she was actually saying it to see what he would say or do.
It's kind of a semi-bluff, and it worked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the brilliant nuances of the writing on this show, is that we don't come out and say what we're doing. You feel it. It's visceral. Along with the really, truly the aid of the music and the editing, the careful, delicate nature of it.
Per se, it doesn't mean.
He's tapped on. Dad's, I'm not a drug dealer per se.
There are a lot of angles to this. Okay, it's complicated. All right, so please, let's just sit back down and we'll talk it through.
I'm gonna make you a deal, Walt. I won't tell Hank. And I won't tell your children or anybody else. Nobody will hear it from me. But only if you grant me this divorce and stay out of our lives.
And a lot of times with the editing style on the show, we stay in shots for an awful long time. We're not always cutting back and forth to be on people for what they're saying. Mm-hmm. And it's very effective.
I think it's also courageous, because the impulse is to be on the person who's speaking, and that's not always where the most accurate point of view is at the time.
Right.
Very good.
Hi, Jesse.
Walt's apartment was a set on our stage. This, of course, is back at the Isleta Casino, Hard Rock now.
Reunited at last.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been away from each other for a while.
Your windshield's broken.
Yeah?
I love that.
There was more to that scene that was cut out.
Yeah.
And was it because of time, or was
It was because of time. A lot of it was.
To me, it's always interesting too. It's like, obviously the writers don't write something that is superfluous to a scene. So how do you cover yourself if you have to cut something out? Obviously, the information that was coming out was there for a reason. I mean,
Yeah, it's a real tough decision on what to cut out. That's why we get with the writers and Vince and sit down and try to figure out what's going to be the best to take out that doesn't affect the story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a long process. It's hard to get time out of these shows because everything means something.
yeah.
That's excellent. That's very good, Jesse. Why?
In this, I was, at first, I didn't know where to put the blocking in this. And then I realized they're too uncomfortable with each other. I don't even want them to move until a certain point. They're uncomfortably standing at the end, so they're actually in the room, but not really, you're really using the room.
Our lives back together again. And on the street.
And I tell him that's where he's going to sleep, so he takes it.
You been following this airplane crash?
Aaron, this is really terrific work. I mean, you take on a different feeling than I've ever seen Jesse have in the run of the show so far, and there's some kind of calm acceptance.
Yeah.
Any way, shape, or form.
I mean, he's just had so much guilt on his shoulders for so long.
Probably far more than you are. And there are many factors at play there.
Yeah.
You have two characters. One character's trying to rid himself of any guilt and responsibility, Walt, and Jesse, who's accepting it. Mm-hmm. I am who I am.
The system is run on 1960s technology.
I love this line.
I blame the government.
You either run from things or you face them, Mr. White.
What exactly does that mean?
I learned it in rehab. It's all about accepting who you really are. I accept who I am.
And who are you?
I'm the bad guy.
And that line rings true at the end of this season.
It does. It really does. And that was no accident.
No.
You know, to plant that in the very
yeah.
first episode and have that come to fruition at the end.
Yep.
Giancarlo Esposito, first scene for him.
It's good to see you again. May I?
I like this shot because I like the idea from that profile angle of the bent wood chair. The bars seem like jail bars to me for some reason. And it's just like it had that image of these men talking surreptitiously in a jailhouse.
It's so crazy. The character Giancarlo plays in this show is this quiet, just evilness about him. But I worked with him years ago where he played the most humble, sweet man that I ended up killing. And but it's just so crazy to see how he can transform into such different characters.
Mm-hmm.
That shot.
Yeah.
Making a change in my life is what it is, and I'm at something of a crossroads.
And how Walt comes back and uses your line with him to justify his position.
I am not a criminal.
And then, oops.
No offense.
Uh-oh.
This is not me.
I'd like you to hear my offer, notwithstanding.
He betrays very little.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
$3 million for 3 months of your time.
What? Everyone has a price.
Then out.
$3 million?
May I take this as it is?
Yeah, and Giancarlo doesn't give anything away. I mean, he gives little glints of things, but nothing.
Yeah. What is that word? He's inscrutable. Tease. Vince Gilligan loves that word, and it says a lot because our show dishes out bits of information very carefully,
very carefully,
and so we, especially for his character.
It's so interesting. I'm sorry to watch his mouth when he smiles in this way, and then his mouth will turn down, and when it does, it makes me nervous.
Yeah, yeah, it does, and then,
just slightly, but I go ooh.
This scene, also in that straw, right, Michael? Mm-hmm. And also still in Mexico, and. We shot this right outside our stages, our studio in Albuquerque. And then this was shot on the stage. We just brought some hay bales in there. And
that piece actually was on that trailer. We built a trailer for that one shot.
Yeah.
And these guys are sitting against 6 bales of hay or so.
Yeah.
And we're driving along on Bobby Foster Road.
Yeah. And now we see
Now we're in the studio.
Now in the studio.
Pero esta vez tengo una chamba que me espera, ¿eh? Mi primo tiene un taller de pintura de auto. Para pintar, nadie me gana. Ya, por eso me dicen aceitón.
Did you guys bounce them up and down?
Yeah.
The studio to
we have
being in the truck.
We have grips. Our grip brothers will give a little shake to the gimbal it a little bit and get some natural shaking going.
And it's also the lights.
It was built on inflatable tire tubes. It was sitting on tire tubes, the set.
Really?
And bouncing it around, and we were shaking the camera.
So all you have to do is shake it just a little bit, and gives that feeling that you're actually in a moving vehicle.
I love this. Him noticing the boots
and then
completely changing.
Whoops. Yeah. And then the cousins go, "Uh-oh, we were made." So the guy who would not stop talking now, all it's like,
It's too bad that kid saw those boots.
Yeah.
that color, the filter, Michael, is so the color is. I find it menace. I mean, it's unsettling.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We did a lot of looking at colors.
Did you?
And also on a TV show, you may not actually color the film. You might leave it till later. You might do it digitally, but we don't do that. We committed to the color, and there was no one doing it once we shot.
Oh, you're not going to go anywhere.
You should have just played dead.
Yeah.
That was a mistake.
What was he thinking? But it's beautiful. It looks like, look at that.
I love that shot.
It's a great one. And how far away were you with the camera?
Oh, we were quite a bit.
You're going to see right now. There you go.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it's
quite a bit away.
Great vista.
And you could have played a lot of the scene from that. But then we had this, and that was a test too. We had to test that, and it didn't actually work as we tested it, but it worked enough to be believable. And that the gasoline was losing its containment. Now, Danny doesn't smoke.
Here's a great example of a big Hollywood scene that we actually choose not to use a big Hollywood music for.
Yes.
Boom. This we did in slow motion.
Yeah. And this is where we added the fire from the burned camera right in there.
Oh, cool.
Very good point.
Nice.
Here it is.
Now, you told him not to flinch.
Yeah. Boom.
Look at that.
Yeah, Bryan, you should talk about, because this is his first day on a film set, and then this happens.
So this is what
You saw Danny just take a drag of a cigarette. I said, to make sure that you are completely at ease and at rest when these guys walk away, if you think of it, just take a drag of your cigarette again. And this explosion just, was incredible. It was an enormous undertaking. Of course, several different tests we did on that, and the guys did a wonderful job. And it got our third season off with a bang.
Yeah, and when that explosion went, there were shoes and things flying past those guys.
Past them that were burning. Yeah, exactly.
Those of you who stick around for the credits will notice we do different iteration of our Breaking Bad theme every week that relates to the episode. Here we had the Cousins theme.
Well done, everybody.
Nicely done. Thank you for joining us.
Tuning in.
See you next time.